I never thought I would be the type of person who would sit in a bar at noon, nursing a drink while contemplating the disarray of my life. Yet here I was, surrounded by the hum of laughter and clinking glasses, feeling like a ghost in my own existence. The warm, muted lighting of the bar did little to ease the chill settling in my chest as I stared into the amber liquid in front of me. It was one of those rare days when the sun broke through the clouds, but inside, it felt perpetually dark. "Can I get you anything else?" The bartender, a young man with a worn-out smile, interrupted my thoughts. I shook my head, forcing a tight-lipped smile. "No, thanks. Just this." He nodded and moved on to another customer. I took a deep breath, letting the noise of the bar wash over me. This wasn't the life I envisioned for myself. It felt like the walls of my world were crumbling, with cracks spreading further and further. Emily and I barely spoke anymore. The small talk had dwindled to mere nods over breakfast as the kids hurried off to school. Oliver and Mia, our bright, energetic children, seemed to float further away from me. I could sense the disappointment in their eyes, the confusion about why Dad was so distant. "You okay, man?" A voice pulled me from my spiral. I turned to find a familiar face, Jake, a friend from college days, sitting a couple of stools down. He looked older, his hair thinning, but his smile was warm. "Just, the usual." I shrugged, trying to brush off the worry. "Work's been tough." "Families, complicated." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Complicated? You mean rough, right? I saw Emily at the grocery store last week. She looked stressed." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Yeah, it's just life, It gets overwhelming sometimes." "Tell me about it." "My wife is working double shifts, and I'm trying to juggle the kids and work. It's chaos," he said, his voice tinged with exhaustion. "You need to talk about it." "I'm all ears." I opened my mouth to respond but felt the familiar lump of shame rising in my throat. "I don't want to drag you down with my problems." "Dude, that's what friends are for." "You're not dragging me down. It's okay to lean on someone." I forced a chuckle, but it came out hollow. "I guess. Just feels like I'm the only one sinking here." Jake clapped me on the back, his hand warm and reassuring. "You're not alone, man. Just remember that." I nodded, grateful for his kindness, but it didn't erase the heaviness in my heart. I turned back to my drink, focusing on the swirling ice cubes as they clinked against the glass. The warmth of the whiskey offered temporary solace, but deep down, I knew it was a band-aid over a gaping wound. As I sipped my drink, my thoughts drifted to my father, his health rapidly deteriorating. The weight of that reality pressed down on me like a lead blanket. How do I even face this? I muttered to myself, feeling lost and helpless. "Everything all right?" Jake asked, sensing my unease. "Yeah, my dad's not doing well," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "He's been in and out of the hospital, and I'm worried about what happens next." Jake's expression softened. "I'm sorry, man. That's a lot to deal with. Have you talked to Emily about it?" I shook my head. "We've been so caught up in our own mess that I don't know if we even have the strength to support each other right now. Sometimes the best thing to do is just lay everything out there, even if it's messy," he advised gently. "You'd be surprised how much it can help to share the load." As he spoke, I couldn't shake the feeling that our relationship had reached a critical juncture. The cracks had deepened into crevices, threatening to swallow us whole if we didn't find a way to bridge the gap. "Maybe you're right," I conceded, though doubt lingered. Jake finished his drink and stood up. "Hey, if you need anything, seriously, just reach out. I'm here." "Thanks, Jake. I appreciate it," I said, watching as he walked away. His kindness felt like a fleeting warmth in a cold world. After a while, the bars started to thin out as the lunchtime crowd dwindled. I glanced around, feeling increasingly out of place. That's when I saw her, a woman with dark, wavy hair and striking green eyes sitting a few stools away, seemingly engrossed in her own world. Something about her drew me in, an inexplicable pull that tugged at my chest. "Do you mind if I join you?" I asked, my heart racing as I approached her. She looked up, surprise flickering across her face before she smiled, revealing a hint of mischief in her expression. "Not at all. I could use the company." I slid onto the stool next to her, feeling an odd sense of relief wash over me as we struck up a conversation. Her name was Sarah, and she had an infectious laugh that made my heart lighten. The more we talked, the more I felt the layers of despair begin to peel away. "What brings you here?" she asked, tilting her head curiously. "Just trying to escape my life for a bit," I admitted, my voice more honest than I intended. "It's been a rough few months. Sometimes you just need to hit pause and breathe," she said, her eyes locking onto mine. "What's been weighing you down?" And just like that, I found myself sharing my burdens, my struggles with Emily, the weight of my father's illness, the feeling of isolation wrapping around me like a suffocating shroud. For the first time in a long while, I felt seen. "Life can be a real mess," she said softly, her gaze unwavering. "But you're not defined by your circumstances. You have the power to change your narrative." Her words resonated deeply within me, igniting a flicker of hope I hadn't dared to grasp in ages. In that moment, surrounded by the noise of the bar, I felt something shift inside me. As the conversation flowed, I was surprised by how easily I connected with her. Time slipped away, and I forgot the reasons I had walked into the bar in the first place. I leaned in closer, feeling the electricity crackle in the air between us. Her laughter, her presence, everything felt alive and exhilarating. After hours of shared stories and laughter, the atmosphere shifted. I could feel the tension building, the magnetic pull drawing us closer. Sarah brushed her fingers against mine, and before I knew it, we were entwined in a kiss that was both exhilarating and terrifying. That brief moment ignited something in me, a spark of desire that I hadn't felt in years. For the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope, a possibility of redemption. But as I pulled away, the weight of my life rushed back, threatening to suffocate the flickering flame of hope. I was still tethered to a crumbling marriage and a life filled with despair, yet somehow, in this unexpected encounter, I glimpsed the chance to break free. The bar was quieter now, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows and casting a warm glow over the worn wooden surfaces. Sarah and I sat close, our knees almost touching, the space between us charged with unspoken energy. I couldn't remember the last time I felt so drawn to someone. Her presence ignited something inside me that had been dimmed for far too long. "Wow," I said, trying to catch my breath after our kiss. "I didn't expect that." "Neither did I," she replied, a playful smile dancing on her lips. "But sometimes, you just have to take a leap." I chuckled softly, the sound tinged with disbelief. "A leap, huh? Seems like my life is full of jumps lately, but not the exciting kind." She tilted her head, her expression curious. "What do you mean?" I sighed, glancing down at the drink in my hand. "My marriage is, well, let's say it's not great. And work? It feels like I'm treading water just to stay afloat. Everything is heavy." "I get that," she said, her voice steady and reassuring. "Life can pile on the weight. But it's how we respond to it that counts. You have a choice." "A choice?" I echoed, skepticism creeping into my voice. "It feels like I've run out of choices, honestly. I'm just trying to survive day by day." "Maybe it's time to stop surviving and start living," she suggested, leaning closer. Her green eyes sparkled with an intensity that drew me in. "What do you want, really?" I opened my mouth to answer, but the words caught in my throat. What did I want? For a moment, I envisioned a life without the suffocating weight of disappointment, a life filled with laughter and warmth. I thought about Emily, the way she used to look at me, and the love we once shared. But could I ever feel that again? I want to feel, I don't know, alive. I finally admitted, the truth slipping out in a whisper. I want to rediscover what it means to be happy. Then let's start there, she said, a smile breaking across her face. Life is too short to be stuck in the mud. You deserve to find joy, even in small moments. I found myself nodding, her words striking a chord deep within me. There was something about Sarah, an undeniable magnetism that made me feel seen, understood, and maybe even a little bit hopeful. So, what about you? I asked, wanting to shift the focus. What brings you here? She hesitated, a shadow passing over her expression. Just trying to escape my own mess, I suppose, she said softly. Life has thrown some challenges my way, and I needed a breather. What kind of challenges? I probed gently, hoping to peel back the layers. Just relationships, really, she replied, her gaze drifting to the bar's wooden counter. I've made some poor choices, and now I'm trying to figure out what's next. I could sense a depth to her words, a story hidden beneath the surface. We all have our battles, I said, trying to relate. It's hard when you feel like you're fighting alone. Exactly, she said, her eyes meeting mine again. But the important thing is to keep moving forward, even if it's one small step at a time. As we talked, I began to feel a connection with her that transcended the physical attraction. There was a shared understanding of pain, a mutual acknowledgement of our struggles. I realized that both of us were seeking solace, not just in each other but in the possibility of something more, a chance to break free from the chains that held us back. Hey, do you want to grab dinner? I suggested impulsively, my heart racing at the idea. There's a little Italian place around the corner. I know it's a bit sudden, but I'd like to get to know you better. Her eyes lit up, and she laughed softly, a sound that sent warmth coursing through me. I'd like that. But let's keep it simple, no pressure, right? Right, no pressure, I agreed, the thrill of spontaneity washing over me. Just two people trying to find their way in the chaos. We stood and made our way outside, the late afternoon sun casting a golden hue over the city streets. As we walked side by side, I felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted. Sarah's presence was intoxicating. It felt like a breath of fresh air in a world that had grown stale. Tell me more about your kids, she said as we strolled, her curiosity genuine. I smiled at the mention of Oliver and Mia, feeling a surge of pride. Oliver is 10 and already thinks he's a teenager. He's into soccer, and I swear he has more energy than a puppy. Mia, on the other hand, is 7 and has this incredible imagination. She creates these elaborate stories and loves to put on little performances. That sounds amazing, she said, genuinely interested. What do you do for fun with them, honestly? I used to take them to the park every weekend, but lately, I've been so caught up in my own head that I've neglected those moments, I confessed, a pang of guilt washing over me. I want to change that, though. I want to be present, then do it. Start now, she encouraged, her tone firm yet compassionate. It's never too late to be the dad they need. As we reached the Italian restaurant, the inviting aroma of garlic and herbs wafted through the air. I opened the door for her, and she walked in with a radiant smile, filling the space with light. I realized that this unexpected connection was beginning to rewrite my narrative, and I found myself excited for what the evening might hold. As we settled into our seats and the waiter poured our drinks, I felt a flutter of anticipation. We shared stories, laughter, and those moments of comfortable silence that spoke volumes. Sarah had a way of pulling me into the present, urging me to step outside the fog of my troubles, if only for a few hours. Thank you for this, I said, looking into her eyes, the warmth of our connection palpable. I didn't expect to meet someone like you today. She smiled, her eyes sparkling with a mix of mischief and sincerity. Neither did I. Sometimes the universe has a funny way of bringing people together. Maybe this is just what I needed, I replied, feeling a newfound sense of hope. A reminder that life can still be surprising, even when it feels like everything is falling apart. Absolutely, she said softly, raising her glass. To new beginnings, however unexpected. I clinked my glass against hers, feeling a surge of gratitude for this moment. Little did I know, this unexpected connection would unravel the fabric of my life, leading me down a path I never saw coming. For now, though, I wanted to bask in the glow of possibility, in the warmth of this newfound companionship, and in the hope of what lay ahead. The weeks that followed my unexpected dinner with Sarah blurred together in a dizzying mix of excitement and guilt. Each moment spent with her felt like a much-needed escape from the pressures of my life, yet the shadow of my responsibilities loomed large. The balancing act had begun, two lives intertwined, one mundane and chaotic, the other vibrant and thrilling. As I pulled into the driveway one evening, I felt the familiar tension coil in my stomach. The house loomed ahead, quiet and unwelcoming. I stepped inside, greeted by the muted sounds of the television and the faint aroma of something simmering on the stove. Emily stood at the counter, chopping vegetables, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Hey," I said, trying to sound cheerful as I dropped my bag by the door. "What's for dinner?" "Just pasta," she replied, her voice flat, not bothering to look up. The energy in the room felt heavy, thick with unspoken words and unaddressed issues. "Sounds good," I said, but my enthusiasm fizzled in the air. I moved into the living room, where Oliver and Mia were sprawled on the floor, engrossed in a game. "Dad!" Mia squealed, her eyes lighting up as she jumped up to hug me. "Can we go to the park this weekend?" "Of course." "I'd love that," I replied, forcing a smile that felt foreign on my face. The promise of a day at the park was a reminder of the simple joys I had neglected, but guilt tugged at my heart. "Great!" Oliver chimed in, looking up from his game. "Maybe we can play soccer, and I can show you my new moves." "Absolutely." "I can't wait to see them," I said, enthusiasm creeping back into my voice. Just then, Emily walked in, arms crossed, an unreadable expression on her face. "Are you really going to take them to the park?" she asked, her tone edged with skepticism. "Yeah, why not?" I replied, caught off guard by her question. "It's a nice day. We could all use some fresh air." Emily raised an eyebrow. "We haven't gone in weeks, and suddenly you want to take them?" I opened my mouth to respond, but the words caught in my throat. "I know it's been a while, but I want to change that. I want to be more present for them." She let out a small sigh, a mixture of frustration and disappointment. "I just don't understand why you're suddenly so interested after being so distant. Can't we just enjoy the moment?" I said, the defensiveness creeping into my voice. "I'm trying here, Emily. I really am." "Trying doesn't mean much if you don't follow through," she shot back, her eyes narrowing. "I'm just saying it feels like you're doing this because you feel guilty." "I'm not doing this out of guilt. I want to be a good dad," I insisted, the tension between us thickening like fog. "I want to make it up to you, to us." But the words hung in the air, heavy and unacknowledged. I could see the doubt in her eyes, a reflection of the distance that had grown between us. The moment hung in the balance, and I felt the weight of my secret life pressing down harder than ever. After a strained dinner filled with half-hearted conversations, I retreated to my bedroom, my mind racing. I grabbed my laptop and opened my email, seeking solace in the connection I had with Sarah. Subject: "Can't stop thinking about you." Message: "Hey, just wanted to check in. It's been a bit chaotic around here, but I can't stop thinking about our last dinner. You make everything feel lighter. How's your week going?" I hit send, a sense of relief washing over me. It was comforting to know that Sarah was out there, a flicker of brightness in my otherwise dark world. Almost immediately, a response popped up. Subject: "Can't stop thinking about you." Message: "Hi. Things have been good but busy. I'm trying to balance work and some personal stuff. It can feel overwhelming, but I'm managing. I'd love to see you again. Maybe this weekend." I stared at the screen, excitement bubbling within me. The thought of seeing Sarah again felt like a lifeline in my otherwise murky existence. I replied, agreeing to meet her and feeling an odd mix of thrill and guilt. The weekend came, and I found myself sitting across from Sarah at a quaint cafe, the soft hum of conversation surrounding us. She looked radiant, her hair cascading over her shoulders, and her smile lighting up the dimly lit space. Hey, you, she said, her eyes sparkling as she sipped her coffee. I'm glad we could do this. Me too, I replied, feeling the weight of my worries slip away as we talked. I needed a break. I get that, she said, her expression softening. Tell me about your kids. I want to know everything. As I talked about Oliver's soccer games and Mia's creative flair, I could see her interest genuinely shining through. It felt refreshing to share my life with someone who listened without judgment, who wasn't clouded by past frustrations or disappointments. Your kids sound amazing, Sarah said, leaning in. You really care about being there for them. I'm trying, I admitted, my voice lowering. But it's tough balancing everything. Sometimes it feels like I'm walking a tightrope. Maybe it's about finding what works for you, she said, her eyes narrowing slightly in thought. You can't be everything for everyone. Focus on what makes you feel fulfilled. Easier said than done, I said, chuckling nervously. I feel like I'm letting everyone down half the time. You're not letting anyone down by trying to take care of yourself, she replied, her voice firm yet soothing. You deserve happiness too. It's not selfish to want to feel alive again. Her words struck a chord, and for the first time in ages, I felt like someone understood the turmoil brewing inside me. It's just. I feel guilty about having fun when everything else feels so heavy. Guilt can be a heavy burden to carry, she said thoughtfully. But sometimes, you have to prioritize your own joy to be there for others. It's a balance, remember? Balance, I echoed, the word resonating deeply. It feels like I'm constantly trying to juggle everything, and one wrong move will make it all come crashing down. Then focus on one thing at a time, she suggested, her eyes intense with sincerity. Start small. Maybe plan a fun day out with the kids. Reconnect with them without the weight of everything else hanging over you. I nodded, her encouragement breathing life into my stagnant thoughts. You're right. I need to find that balance, but it's tough when I feel like I'm living a double life. You don't have to hide from the joy you deserve, she said gently. Just take it one step at a time. I'm here for you. Our conversation flowed easily, and with every passing minute, I felt the tension loosening its grip. Sarah's presence was intoxicating, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was helping me find my way back to the person I used to be. As we finished our meal, I felt lighter, like I was emerging from a fog. I'm glad we met, I said sincerely, meeting her gaze. You've changed my perspective. Just remember, it's a process. You're doing better than you think, she replied, her smile radiant. The day unfolded beautifully, and as we walked through the park afterward, I felt the burden of guilt lift, if only for a moment. The sun shone brightly, and laughter echoed around us, reminding me of the joy I had almost forgotten. Yet, as the day came to an end, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling of duality in my life. I was stepping into the light with Sarah while still tethered to the shadows of my responsibilities and the crumbling pieces of my marriage. Balancing the two would be my greatest challenge yet, but for the first time in a long while, I felt like I had the strength to try. The warm glow of the cafe felt like a fading memory as I pulled into my driveway that evening. The sense of freedom I had experienced with Sarah was quickly overshadowed by the oppressive atmosphere that awaited me at home. I stepped inside, my heart heavy with anticipation for the familiar weight of Emily's disappointment. As I closed the door behind me, I was immediately struck by the silence. The house was dim, the television muted, and a sense of unease hung in the air like an uninvited guest. I found Emily in the living room, her arms crossed and an unreadable expression on her face. Hey, I said tentatively, trying to gauge her mood. Hey, she replied, her voice cool. You're home late. I got caught up at work, I said, though the words felt inadequate. I could feel her eyes scrutinizing me, searching for something beneath the surface. Right. Caught up. She scoffed lightly, but the hurt in her voice was unmistakable. You've been caught up a lot lately. I shifted uncomfortably, the guilt creeping back in. I'm trying to balance everything, Em. It's just been a lot. Trying, she echoed, her tone laced with sarcasm. Is that all you can say? What about the kids? They miss you. I miss you. I know, I admitted, my voice low. I want to be there more. I really do. Then why do I feel like you're always somewhere else? Her voice trembled slightly, the frustration bubbling beneath the surface. I can see it in your eyes. You're here, but you're not. I opened my mouth to respond, but the truth felt too raw, too complicated to share. The secret life I had been weaving with Sarah was starting to fray at the edges, and I couldn't bring myself to confess. I'm sorry, I finally said, the weight of the admission pressing down on me. I just need some time to figure things out. Figure what out? She asked, her tone softening just a fraction. We used to talk about everything. Now it feels like you're just avoiding me. It's not that simple, I said, the frustration bubbling up. I'm trying to find a way to make this work. I just need some space to breathe. Space, she repeated incredulously. Space is the last thing we need. We need to reconnect, to work on our marriage, not drift further apart. I ran a hand through my hair, feeling the tension coiling tighter. I don't know how to do that right now. Emily sighed deeply, turning away from me. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep pretending everything is okay when it's not. The silence that followed was deafening. I could feel the walls closing in around us, a chasm growing wider with each passing moment. I wanted to reach out, to bridge the gap, but the fear of exposing my truth kept me rooted in place. The following days felt like a blur, each one blending into the next as I tried to navigate the tumultuous waters of my life. I threw myself into work, attempting to push away the mounting pressure at home. The emails from Sarah became my lifeline, a source of light in my otherwise shadowed existence. Subject: can we meet? Message: hey, I miss you. Can we get together soon? I need to see you. Her words sent a thrill through me, a reminder that there was still joy to be found amid the chaos. I quickly responded, agreeing to meet her that weekend, eager to escape my reality once again. But just days before our planned meeting, everything changed. I was at work when my phone buzzed with a notification. It was an alert from the news app One Followed, and the headline made my heart drop: local woman arrested for husband's murder. I clicked on the link, and my blood ran cold. The article detailed a shocking turn of events involving Sarah. The woman I had shared laughter and dreams with was now implicated in something dark and sinister. My hands shook as I read the words. Sarah's husband had been found dead, and she was the prime suspect. No, this couldn't be real. I felt a mix of disbelief and panic wash over me. I quickly scrolled through the comments, most filled with speculation and judgment, but one caught my eye. She was always the one who seemed off. You could just tell. Suddenly, the connection I felt with Sarah began to feel tainted. My mind raced with questions. Had she been hiding something from me? What kind of person had I allowed myself to get close to? I couldn't shake the feeling that my life was spiraling out of control. I quickly packed up my things and left the office, driving home in a daze. When I got home, the atmosphere felt different, charged and tense. Emily was sitting at the kitchen table, her face pale and drawn. I saw the news, she said quietly, her eyes meeting mine. Yeah, I replied, my heart pounding. I can't believe it. Do you know her? She asked, the accusation hanging in the air. Well, I met her, I admitted, my voice wavering. But it was just a few times. Emily's gaze hardened. Just a few times. You've been spending time with a woman who's now accused of murder, and you thought that was okay? It's not what you think, I insisted, feeling cornered. I was trying to find some kind of happiness, a break from all this. I gestured around us, the weight of our problems pressing down on me. You think it's okay to run to another woman when things get tough, she shot back, her voice rising. How is that supposed to fix anything? I didn't plan for any of this. I yelled, frustration boiling over. I was just trying to escape. I didn't think it would come to this. Emily stood up, her hands trembling. This isn't just about you anymore. You need to decide what you want. You can't keep living this double life. I know, I replied, my voice dropping to a whisper. But I can't just walk away from Sarah either. She's been my escape. An escape that could ruin everything, Emily said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. What if she's guilty? What if you get dragged into this? I felt my heart race, a pit forming in my stomach. The reality of the situation crashed down on me like a tidal wave. I was standing on the edge of a precipice, and one wrong move could send me tumbling into darkness. As the silence settled in again, the weight of my choices hung heavily in the air. I had to confront the moral dilemma that loomed ahead. Could I support Sarah, knowing what was at stake? Or was it time to cut ties and focus on my family, my marriage, the life I had almost let slip away? I turned to Emily, desperation creeping into my voice. I need time to think, I said. I can't make any decisions right now. Fine, she replied, her voice cold. But don't take too long. We can't keep living like this. I nodded, feeling the chasm between us deepen. As I retreated to the solitude of my room, I was left grappling with the chaos of my heart and the weight of my decisions. The darkness was closing in, and I was left wondering if I had the strength to face it head-on or if I would let it consume me entirely.